So let us begin. Here's the format for the weekend. We're going to go through all sorts of ways of getting to the root cause of problems. Now, in our training online and in the classes that we do here, typically I have taught over and over DSIH, which is direct suggestion in hypnosis. People tend to sort of look down on it nowadays and say, well, that's old stuff. But it must be remembered that Bernheim and Lebo in Nancy, France, they had tremendous results using just direct suggestion in hypnosis, putting someone in a trance, giving them proper suggestions, and having transformation happening in their lives, especially because Bernheim was a neurologist. So they were coming at this from a medical background, and they got amazing results for physiological things and psychological problems. The reason I've taught this exclusively is the stuff that we are doing this weekend is very, very transformative. But it gets to the stuff that DSIH doesn't. It's like having a bad laceration on your arm. Direct suggestion is like having it sutured and cleansed, and then the wound heals. The stuff we're doing this weekend is when the person has a piece of shrapnel in the wound, and we don't want to stitch it up on top of it. Right? We want to remove the shrapnel and then do the suturing. The problem is to do the stuff this weekend with beginners, it's just not possible. They need a foundation. And you all have qualified to have that hypnotic foundation already. So you're ready for this. Some of the stuff will not be new to you. But I want to warn you about something we call the Taekwondo problem. You'll find this appealing, Rick. As a martial artist, Chris and I are martial arts instructors. We teach a uniquely British form of jiu-jitsu. But what we discover when someone new comes into the class and we're endeavoring to teach them our system, they say, oh, in Taekwondo we do it like this. Okay? Or, oh, in Silam Kung Fu we do it like this. Or in Judo we do it like this. We can't let that happen this weekend, or we'll be constantly talking about other things that we're not doing this weekend. So, it's like when you watch a movie with someone and they say, oh, Robert Duvall, and a bunch of you are in the living room, they say, what was that? Was he in Godfather 2? No, he was in Godfather 1. Oh yeah, who did he play? You get into a big discussion on it, and the movie's still going, and I typically at that point say, you know, maybe we should rent The Godfather so we can talk about this movie. And then everyone goes, oh, okay, sorry, right. My point is, there's going to be a tendency to say, well, Cal Banyan does it this way, Jerry Kine did it this way, you know, Dave Ellman did it this way, Milton Erickson did it this way. My answer is, I know, but we're doing it a very specific way this weekend. So some of the techniques will not be the way you've learned them, and that's fine. Your techniques will still be there when you leave at the end of the weekend, but I'm giving you stuff that I use, and after 45 years of full-time hypnosis, this is stuff that works. It will work if you follow the program I'm giving you, and you still have all the other stuff to go back to. So let's stick with the program we're doing, and the results will be astounding. We are starting just ensuring that everyone is on the same page for the foundations. So we're going to make sure that you can get rid of trauma quickly through my 6-step method. We're also going to show you a couple of great ways of doing ideomotor work. Now that will be our foundation, so we all have the basic toolbox then, because I don't know where everybody is. That way you will all have it for the rest of the weekend. Then we're going to go into finding ancient trauma going back to your childhood, usually in the imprint phase, age 0 to 7, that you have consciously forgotten. Stuff that's still screwing up your life that you don't remember is even there. We're going to show you how to find that. And you're going to be doing it on each other and clearing all of this shit, which is a technical term. Okay? When that is gone, you'll already be feeling amazing and you'll have this incredible tool. We start with that. And then we're going to move on into layer after layer stuff. Today we're going to get into timelines as well. I'm going to show you the best ways to work with timelines for clearing up the past, getting rid of limiting decisions that are still staying with you, getting rid of negative emotions without the person having to abreact, finding the root cause of all kinds of things. It gives you another way of doing it. Then we'll show you how to build in methods of using timelines to undo anxiety. So if someone has performance anxiety for anything, they have to make a speech but they don't want to. I worked with a woman from one of the major banks who hired me because she won this award and it was being presented in the Far East, either Tokyo or Hong Kong. And she was great with the flying, she was great with her job, but going up to receive an award where she didn't even have to make a speech terrified her. Timeline, bang, fix it in advance. She walks out the podium, just aces the thing, everybody loves her. We'll show you how to deal with future events, anxiety, performance anxiety, a flight, whatever it is. And that's really cool. So that'll take us about halfway through the material. Then we're going to get into the best ways of doing regression, taking people back to the events, how to abreact people so that you're dealing with the 3 things that have to be changed in order for the person to be healed. 3 things have to happen. And if these 3 things don't happen, the problem will tend to come back. So we want to teach you to do really, really clean work, thorough work, but my maxim is always the same: simpler is better. Bruce Lee, the great martial artist, gave that great example. He said when he started doing martial arts, a kick was only a kick and a punch was only a punch. Then he learned all this classic complex things and different amazing stuff. And then years later, he realized a kick was only a kick and a punch was only a punch. We want to take you to that years later point where all of this debris, all of this other stuff, the window dressing, isn't necessary, and will enable you to get to the stuff that works quickly, easily. Simpler is better. Simpler is always better, because simpler, it's finding the part of the program that actually does the work. I discovered this horribly by accident many, many years ago. It must have been 1975. I was doing my first work as a professional hypnotist then. I had left my job at Bell Canada, where I was a telephone operator, because I had a grade 10 education. I skipped grade 4, went 3 to 5, failed grade 9, went to summer school, failed grade 11, went to summer school, went to a hippie-free school, West Nohunt, for my final year, so technically had grade 10 education, but I became an autodidact, trained myself. So when I started to train myself in hypnosis, when I was working as a telephone operator, because I already had 10 years of hypnosis at that time, to do it as a professional, I started doing shows. And it was going great, taking away people's names, taking their wallets, doing all these things, until Palmerston, Ontario. Because at Palmerston, Ontario, which was a high school gig, one night, 1975, I had maybe 6 or 7 shows under my belt. Everything was just cooking. Nobody else was doing this in Ontario. I was a 21, 22-year-old kid. And I had not yet found out what that simple stuff was that made it work. Does that make sense? I hadn't distilled it and discovered what was the essence of the hypnosis and what was the window dressing. What was the theatrics? And so that night in Palmerston, 400 people in the audience, 30 people on stage. Very first thing, let's do a suggestibility test. Okay, interlock your hands, extend them in front of you. The count of 3, you won't be able to get your hands apart. I left out essentials, and I left the window dressing, the theatrics, in. And that night, 30 people just took their hands apart and looked at me. That was my very first thing. How do you get credibility back after that? Not very well. And the rest of the evening is a horrible blank, so maybe I'll fix that over this weekend. So that's really the metaphor for this weekend. We want to give you the stuff that works, that is simple, and why it works, and you'll be able to make the most amazing changes. So let's get everybody in the zone.